Hello fellow human, hope you guys have an amazing day and let's read some more entitled parent stories. To the first one. My mother threw my sister a party for my 8th birthday. This happened in 1988 when I was 8 years old and my sister was 5. From a very early age, I knew that my youngest sister was the golden child and could do no wrongs in our mother's eyes. My mother dearest was abusive towards me for most of my childhood until I was 14 and her physical and mental abuse turned towards my sister as well. My parents had separated before my sister was born. They didn't mesh well together but tolerated each other for the sake of their kids. Part of the reason that my sister was mom's favorite child was her love for horse riding, which I was never interested in. The more hostile our mother got towards me, the less interested I got in anything she was interested in. And then came my 8th birthday. I was friends with our next door neighbor's kids and a few kids from school. Although I didn't have that many, I loved the friends I did have and was excited to share my birthday with them. My birthday was on a Friday, but mom told me that she'd arranged my birthday party for Saturday, which was fine by me. The day of my birthday party came and I got excited. At that age, I hadn't yet had my heart crushed by my mother and her blatant favoritism and abuse, but that was the year I began to hate my birthday. The party was arranged to start at 12 p.m., so I wore my favorite dress and sat outside to wait for my friends to arrive. This was the point that I realized that something wasn't right. Outside was the mother of one of my sister's friends with a Shetland pony and Tao. My mother knew I wasn't interested in horses, and even if I was, this horse was too small for an 8 years old. As more guests started to arrive, my heart broke more and more. These were my sister's friends, not mine. And for the icing on the cake, out came my 5 years old sister in a Cinderella costume. None of these people were there for me. This was supposed to be my party, but instead it became a party for my sister. None of my friends were there. All these birthday presents were addressed to me, but were things I didn't want. My Little Pony toys and other horse-related gifts were what I got from my mother and the people at the party. The only present I got wasn't horse-related was from our dad. He came later in the day to wish me happy birthday, and by that point, the other guests and the pony were gone. I can remember him asking me what was wrong, as I wouldn't come out of my room or to talk to anyone. My mother acted dumb and said that she didn't know why I was upset. It wasn't until many years later that my dad found out what had happened. After that day, I didn't want the birthday party again. Even now at 30, I don't make a big deal out of my birthday. I still celebrate it, but I don't do birthday parties. My sister has changed a lot since then, and I don't hold any grudges for the things our mother did. We don't speak to our mother anymore, and our father died in 2009 when I was 19. It's tough sometimes, but me and my sister are really close, so we have each other to lean on for support. I'd be lost if it weren't for her. Oh man, that has to be one of the most cruel, petty, stunning acts of favoritism I've ever heard of. The second story. So what if I left you to die? I still deserve your money. Well, not my story. I read about it in our local newspaper years ago. It was quite a well-known story at the time. An elderly couple with no children came to know about a newborn baby whom someone had left in a waste dump. The baby was about to die. They took her to the hospital and then formally adopted her. Years later, the girl herself became a doctor and earned good money. An old poor couple came to the girl claiming to be her biological parents and demanded that she give them money as they didn't have any means to provide for themselves. The girl didn't believe them, but after DNA tests, it was proven that they were indeed her biological parents. How they knew that wasn't mentioned in the article. The couple kept demanding money from her, saying as she was their daughter, it was her responsibility to look after them in their old age. When the girl asked them why they left her to die, they tried to justify their action and said that if they didn't have left her there, she wouldn't have so much money right now. It was because of them that she had money, and so they deserved some of it. They wanted the money as their other kids, sons mostly, either didn't earn or didn't want to take care of them. When the girl refused, they threatened to go to court against her. In retaliation, she sued them for abandonment and few other charges. There was no follow-up article, so I don't know what happened to the girl or those pathetic excuses for human beings. Wait, so how did they not get arrested on the spot for admitting to attempted murder? The third story. Hi from Texas, private businesses can still require masks even without a state mandate. Here's how that's going. I'm a waitress. A restaurant strictly requires masks while indoors if your meal/beverage hasn't been served and after it's been bussed. The mask mandate honestly wasn't that helpful in corralling unruly customers because they argued that the mandate was not a law, so they wouldn't follow it, was unconstitutional, so they wouldn't follow it, or was irrelevant because they'd eventually be taking their mask off when their food was served, so they wouldn't follow it. But, while the presence of a mandate didn't help much, the lack of mandate has made things way worse. People who previously wore a mask now don't believe it's necessary for their health or that we have a right to set mask wearing as a store policy. But what they don't understand, and what I will reiterate for you now, private businesses can have any dress code they want. Ever go to a fancy restaurant that requires suit jackets for men? Or a grocery store that requires shoes? Yeah. Where were the freedom fighters then? Anyways, regardless of your opinion on masks, no need to argue it to me, in the comments or as a customer, because the owner makes those calls. My job is to enforce his decisions, whether that will be all customers have to wear face masks covering mouth and nose, or if it were all customers have to wear sleeveless denim vests. I'd have to enforce it if he wanted it so. That's literally part of my job. Our in-house mask mandate at the restaurant remains firmly in place, and I spend my entire shift telling people to comply or leave, then telling them again, then a third time, then getting a larger, more physically intimidating line cook to tell them. By the end of the shift, I was a master at putting my hands up authoritatively and saying, "Sir, ma'am, it is your choice whether or not to wear a face covering, just as it is our choice to serve you in this private business. So comply with our dress code or exit the premises." A few people called the police, or more likely acted as though they were, but at no point did any real authorities bother coming. After my shift ended, I was absolutely exhausted and ready to forget anti-maskers, COVID truthers, and just eat some banana oatmeal. I hit the supermarket on the way home and the chain still requires masks. As I approached the door, most people were maskless but stopped short of the entrance to put masks on. When they seeing the sign, no problem. The people directly next to me though, a mom with a classic Karen haircut and a teenage boy approximately 15 didn't. Mom actually did put a tattered, ill-fitting surgical mask on. She wasn't even wearing it correctly, but still better than nothing. Her son though didn't break stride, just kept heading into the store. His mom flagged him down and said, "Jeremy, put a mask on. It's the policy." Kind of quietly, as though she was trying not to anger him. And he said, I thought we didn't have to do that bullcrap anymore. I saw it in the news." His mom explained that business could still require a mask even if the state no longer did. At first, I was thinking, well, props to Karen. Her haircut is totally misleading. But her son couldn't just let it end on a nice note. He whined that he didn't bring a mask and he didn't want to walk all the way back to the car to get one, and there wasn't Wi-Fi in the parking lot, so no way he was going to wait for her in the car. Well, if he had a mask in the car, why would he have had to wait for her there? Mom tried to think of a rebuttal, eyeing the policy no exception sign, but seemed too tired to generate one. So she just braced herself and they headed into the store. A greeter stopped the son and said he needed a regulation face covering, but he ignored her, grunting, "Don't have one," and kept walking. The greeter called after him, but couldn't move from her spot by the door, and eventually he was too deep into the aisles to notice. I found all this offensive, however, I was too exhausted from dealing with guys like him professionally to take it on personal. I just went on about finding the right color of bananas and trying to get back to my car as quickly as I could. Fast forward to the deli counter. I had taken a ticket and was standing on line. Karen and her son were right nearby. Happily, several people were giving Karen's sons the evil eye besides me and keeping a healthy distance from him, but he could not have cared less and neither could his mom. She was placing a long, elaborate deli order and he was picking up lemons in a nearby display and putting them back. Her son was having a loud FaceTime conversation with a friend, expelling his air and his nosy chatter onto shoppers in every which direction. But I tried to put it out of my mind because I just did not have the bandwidth to deal with people like this one more time tonight. Well, that's when it happened. He coughed, maskless and directly onto the lemons. I was getting ready to say something, but thankfully, a deli worker noticed and called him out saying, "Who's coughing?" Looking all around and noticing the kid. "Hey, son, you've got to wear a mask to be in here." Karen Jr. shrugged his shoulder, but the deli guy wasn't having it, pulling out the corporate policy sheet. So Karen Jr. looked to his mom for support. She seemed genuinely embarrassed by her son, but not so much that he would hold him accountable for his dangerous choices. She hurriedly explained, "Ow, He has a mask, but he left it in the car and we park in the far lot. The deli counter guy was persistent though, saying, well, I don't care where he left it, it's the policy, mask up or head out. He took a few assertive steps in the kid's direction, which I guess was too much for Karen to handle, because she threw herself in between her son and the worker. There was still like easily 10 plus feet of space between them. He was hardly chesting up to the kid, as Karen triumphantly declared, well, the store isn't allowed to have that policy anymore. Didn't you see Governor Abbott's announcement? It was never even a law anyways. That stymied the deli guy. My guess is because he had seen the announcement and he wasn't sure what to make of it, didn't want to risk his job if he really couldn't enforce a mask policy anymore, and had a line piling up at his station so couldn't argue with her all day. So he stepped back, but not before saying, well, either way, you shouldn't need a law. It's a paragon of selfishness what you're doing. Son, my mother is dead of this disease, dead in the ground, never got to meet her granddaughter. She wasn't too much older than your mother. You should think about it. The kid, unblinking, laughed at this guy, not chuckled, full-blown belly laugh cracking. His mother pulled him away saying that he was being rude, but didn't make him apologize, let alone apologize herself. I placed my order, told the guy how despicable that exchange was and apologized for his loss, and that it was that, or so I'd hoped. I prayed I'd able to avoid him for the rest of my trip, but lo and behold, just as I was about to check out, I realized I was out of plastic wrap. I always have leftovers, so I needed to go for the wrap. Didn't matter how close to the checkout I was. I doubled back, holding my breath, no pun intended, and sure enough, the mother-son super spreaders were stationed at the end cap having an argument with a clerk. As best I could figure it from the bits and pieces I picked up, customers were complaining about his coughing enough to motivate a manager to confront the family. The manager was physically intimidating, so I guess he was the staff go-to guy for confrontation. But it became immediately apparent he did not have a personality for conflict. His name was Chet, name tag. He was a human teddy bear at like 6'5" and 300 pounds. He had, to his credit, managed to get Karen's cart away from her, holding it to the side so they could not continue shopping until her son put his mask on. But now Chet was pleading with Karen, oh, please don't yell at me. I can't understand you when you're yelling. Karen was going off on Chet about laws he'd broken, the discrimination he was acting against her poor son, and how the entire store had been harassing a minor child since they entered. And how news and the corporate office would hear about this and he'd be out of job and no one is hiring right now, so he better be careful. Chet seemed genuinely surprised as he tried and failed to communicate with Karen to gentle reassurance of, I'm trying to help you actually, ma'am. I don't want to harass anyone. I want to work this out. The situation at hand, though, is that you cannot continue to shop until your son confirms our corporate masking policy for the well-being of the community we serve, alright? Help me help you! Meanwhile, as Karen was preaching, well, screeching, the innocent of Karen Jr., her son was actively berating her, telling her that she was embarrassing and ineffective and she was so stupid for wasting time arguing with these people, and he wanted to just ignore them and keep shopping. He was a toothpick and Chet was a redwood, so I don't know in what universe he thought he'd ignore the situation and continue about his business, but oh well. Anyways, at this stage, I realized it was disrespectful to be just a spectator to the spectacle. I would either have to speak up or move on with my shopping. Maybe this was a straw that broke my back after the day I'd had at work. Maybe I was just on autopilot. Or maybe I felt sympathy for Chet. Probably a mix of all three. But my mask-enforcing persona roared to life. Luckily, I was also still wearing my work clothes including a name tag, or this might have not worked. I stormed over with the most authoritative manager of the manager swagger and said, excuse me, you're creating a disturbance. Do we have a problem here? Poor Chad started trying to explain and remove me from the situation, thinking I was a concerned customer who was upset by the disruption of their altercation. Or worse, a third member of the Karen party. But I just fell into my script, which I had down cold at this point, reciting, Sir, ma'am, you have a choice as to whether or not you'd like to wear a mask, and as a private business, we have a choice as to set dress code we'd like to set for our customers. You have two options as to how we can proceed from here. Karen just kept talking over me, where her son whined at her to stop engaging with us and keep shopping, including this gem of a line. They're literally lower than rent to cops. They're the can stacking people. Just ignore them. So I went to the phase 2 script. Alright, you have made the choice not to partake in our service, and we have, in turn, made the choice to not service you. Please leave now, or you'll be escorted out. If you leave of your own volition, you'll be welcomed back if dressed appropriately. If escorted out, a permanent ban will be issued. Please note that we have clear view of your face on our CCTV to reference, as you're not currently wearing a mask. That nearly made Karen Jr.'s head explode. He started shouting obscenity at us, and I just flatly stated, my colleague is contacting security. Getting edgier as he escalated because A, I made the assumption that the store had security, but it was dawning on me that I have no clue whether or not they did, and B, Karen Jr. was physically larger than me. So I thought back to the stories of store workers being attacked or even killed by anti-maskers for enforcing these policies. For a minute, I wondered if I should keep my nose out of this business. But Karen stepped up to the plate, better late than never. She started pulling her son towards the door, insisting, I cannot be banned from here. This store is easily closest to the house. Come on, come on! He resisted at first, even intentionally pushing over the end cap display in rage. To which, Chet offered the strong words of, Hey now, was that really necessary? When he started destroying property, Karen left him to face security on his own and made a beeline for her car. After about 15 seconds more of kicking stuff around, Karen Jr. realized he was left standing on his own 2 feet without mommy there to shield him from real-world consequences and absolutely broke down. A wave of terror washed over him, and just as quickly he'd flown into the initial rage, he bolted for the exit. Chet was so casual about all of this. He turned to me and asked, Well, you don't work here, do you? I've never seen you before, and... I explained what I'd been dealing with at work and how I feel obligated to step in as a result, and he sincerely thanked me, even offered me coupons, but chillingly said that while he appreciated the thought behind it, the next time I should not get involved. He warned that some of the anti-masker had been wholly unstable, hitting or spitting at employees, and they did not have a usual security guard, but he was out that day because of an injury of an anti-mask inflicted on him at another job site. It's only because he was out that they sent any regular store workers to confront the kid at all. He signed and said, This is mostly what I've been doing today. I don't know if it's because I've got a calm demeanor or because I look like I don't have a calm demeanor, but either way, I'm always the one they sent to deal with the crazies. I was so distracted by all of this, I didn't even ended up remembering to get my plastic wrap. I just checked out and headed home as quickly as I could. So stay safe out there, everyone. Wear your mask, keep your distance, get the vaccine, watch out for the one another. We'll be through the other side of this soon. Not as soon as we could be, thanks to the people like Karen and Son, but soon. Well, personally, I would have lost control the minute he laughed at the dead grandma. That's it for today, fellow humans. Thanks for watching. Be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys next time.